Well, good morning, everyone, and it's cold outside. But welcome to the final workshop of the COVID Recovery and Resiliency webinar series. I'm Andrea Allen, Executive Director of the Delta Center for Economic Development at Arkansas State University. Today's workshop is the last in our COVID-19 Recovery and Resiliency Initiatives webinar series. The initiative, as many of you know, is a joint project of the Arkansas Economic Development Institute and the Delta Center with the support of the U.S. Economic Development Administration and the Arkansas Association of Development Districts. Over a year ago, as part of our COVID initiative, we deployed surveys to determine the issues that came to the forefront due to the pandemic. As no surprise, the number one issue was the lack of affordable and quality broadband internet access. This issue is now being addressed on many fronts, and today's presenters will provide insights to help our communities tap into resources and explain the critical need to be connected. We've got a great lineup for you today, including Lou McAllister with the Broadband Development Group that's charged with implementing the Arkansas Broadband Master Plan. Angie Cooper, Chief Program Officer for Heartland Forward, Jeff Chapman, Vice President General Manager of Right Fiber, a division of Ritter Communications, and Stuttgart Mayor Norma Strabola. And last but not least, Don Benton, Assistant Director of Education and Technology for the Arkansas Department of Education. We'll take questions as time allows at the end of each presentation, so please type any questions you have into the chat, and I'll do my best to get to all of them when the presentations conclude. So our first presenter today is Lou McAllister with the Broadband Development Group. The Broadband Development Group is assessing the state's internet connectivity and creating a broadband connectivity master plan for Arkansas. Lou is a career network and telecommunications executive and entrepreneur. His career includes operational, technical, strategical planning, and business development experience in large companies such as AT&T, as well as his own startups. Mr. McAllister, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We're all excited to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to go ahead and let you get started.
Well, thanks very much, Andrea. It's my pleasure to be here and to be with everyone virtually. And as indeed, we do need broadband to be able to do these kinds of things. And fortunately, in many places in the state, we do have good broadband, and we're getting better all the time. I apologize if I don't have the slides that we need in here, Andrea. I don't know if we do or not. But
yeah, Matt has those, so
Matt has those. Okay, so Matt, if you could queue up a slide or two. Okay. I'll go ahead and talk.
I'm getting it pulled up, Lou. Give me just.
Oh, okay. We decided that what we were doing, the work we were doing, needed a name because everybody does better when we have names and we can identify things. So we started calling the project AR Broadband Now and put a tagline on it of Accelerate the Natural State, because we wanted everybody in Arkansas to be able to identify with this and talk about it with a common language and have a common view. This is pretty important to us, and as we go around the state, this is what we're seeing and what we're showing everybody.
Your slides.
Let's go to the next slide, Matt. Or do I do that? Here we go. Okay, so as Andrea mentioned, we are creating a master plan. And before we got to this point, there have been a lot of maps created. There have been a lot of grants awarded. There are a lot of grants applied for. We've spent a lot of money. We want to spend a lot of money, but the programs have been pretty much just looking at technical things. So we decided that in talking with legislators and with the executive branch of government and what we would do if we were if we had been left in charge of this, what we would have done. And we decided that there was a need for a technical assessment, of course, coupled with a financial assessment to build a business case that looks at how much we need to invest, where we need to invest, what we need to invest in, and then build out something that looked like a sustainable business case. And that kind of leads us to the commercial input of the master plan, because we don't want to turn around or go 10 or 15 years from now and be back in the same place we are today. We wanted to build something that is commercially viable, sustainable, that promotes Arkansas from the bottom of the second half of the states on the digital divide index and gets us up into the top half somewhere, but that we can stay there. And then we wanted to look at the social aspects as well in the master plan. And this has to do with the benefits to everybody in the state, what it means to our children's education, what it means to agribusiness, what it means to job creation, to median incomes, to recruitment of companies and economic development into the state, because there's a big part of any successful master plan that encompasses that. And of course, the very top of this Pentagon is the political part, it's the policy, where we know that there's political will on both sides of the aisle. One of the, as we've gone around and talked to folks in the state, every Democrat, every Republican, every person in the state agrees that we need better broadband internet access. It is a nonpartisan issue. It's an issue that we all gravitate towards. And when we put this master plan together and we're looking at technology and we're looking at dollars and we're looking at sustainability and the social impact, the economic development impact, and that sort of thing, we think that the policymakers are going to have some fairly complex questions to answer and some fairly complex issues to deal with. And that's going to be a very key part of the success of the master plan. So this is what we're out doing. Our team, we have a very sophisticated, very talented engineering team working on the technical part, and they're very experienced with business case development. So they're doing the technical and financial. And then we have a couple of teams that are out going around the state, holding town hall meetings, meeting with mayors, county judges, school superintendents, but just ordinary citizens. We're meeting in schools, libraries, churches, community halls, wherever we can gather folks, and we're gathering data. We have a survey that we're asking folks to fill out, and we're getting a survey from them for primary data gathering and for anecdotal their experiences. So we're taking down stories that we can put into our report back to the Commerce Department, who owns this project. And we're out finding some pretty interesting pieces of data. We have one of the things we found out, and we just did this a couple of nights ago in one of our meetings, is that there may be a significant percentage in our state of folks who are not going to have internet access of any kind at any price. They don't see the benefits. They don't want this intrusion in their lives. So as a state, we may have that question to deal with. We may be looking at educational kinds of things that we need to be doing, outreach that we need to be doing, but we're running into a lot of pretty interesting opinions, I think is maybe the best way to put it. Some people really embrace this, and other people absolutely do not embrace it at all. In fact, they shun it. Our outreach includes talking to providers. I'm trying to talk to every provider in the state. I doubt if I'll be able to do that because there are a lot, but we're trying to talk to every provider and find out what they think works, what they think doesn't work, how they think things have gone so far. I can tell you early on that there are some companies, I know one smaller company, and he's just said, I'm not participating in any of this stuff because I don't have the money or the time or to put into this to try to get a grant. It's too complicated for my small company. That's one take on it. By the same token, another small company has done something like invested tens of thousands of dollars in the application process because they see this as the future and they want to participate in it. So it was a business decision that they made. So we're trying to figure out how to help everybody understand and see and participate if they want to in a way that makes some commercial sense for them, knowing that there's a big difference between the really large players and the really small players. And we have a lot of small providers in this state. So we're trying to reach out to those folks. So we're talking to government, non-government, private companies, providers, users, policymakers, legislators, anybody and everybody that we can get input from. Let's go to the next slide, if you would please, Matthew. And this is how to reach us. We've created an email address. We have a phone number. We have social media platforms. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. One of the clear messages in this as we were competing for this business was that the legislature and the executive branch wanted complete transparency and complete communication and openness on this. And we're big fans of that. So we have these ways to reach us, talk to us, communicate with us, follow us, and that sort of thing. I have two pieces of information I'd like to share if I can, Andrea. We have the survey. I can share the survey in this in this forum. Please, if you're on this forum, fill one out, distribute the survey to your colleagues, your friends, your neighbors. We really want the data and the input. And I also have an online meeting request form. There are a whole lot of people on this call that we already are meeting with and working with and in pretty constant contact with. But if you are in a community and you want us to come to your community and have a meeting and share with your folks, and your folks give us their stories and their experiences, we'd love for you to fill out a form and send it back to us and let us get it on the calendar. We've committed to the state to hold about 300 community meetings in the next 5 months. That's a lot of meetings in a day, every day. And we want to get out there and see everybody. So I'll share the survey and the meeting request form and encourage you to please use those, get those back to us because A, we want the data, and B, we want to get out in the communities and meet as many people as possible. And with that, Andrea, that pretty much does it for what I have to say. We can do questions and that sort of thing if you like.
That's great. And do you want to just put a link to your survey in the chat, or do you want us to send it out to everyone afterward? Whatever would work best for you.
I'm not really a Zoom guru. There's a share content button up here. Do you want me to just use the share content and put the link there or put the documents there?
That should work.
Will that work? You want to try that?
Let's try that.
Okay, let me, here's the survey. That work? You see that?
I do see that. And you have a QR code there that.
Yes.
Okay. And Mary Margaret said if you can email that to her, she can get it to everyone as well. So that
I'll do. Okay, I'll do. Maybe that's easier. I'll go ahead and send it to Mary Margaret right now, and we'll go from there. How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, and if anyone has questions for Mr. McAllister, and again, he is with the Arkansas Broadband Development Group, and they're doing the master plan for Arkansas. So you can type your questions into chat. I have one that came through about once the cable is laid, can any telecommunications tie into the system, or will it belong to a certain company?
Oh, there's a thorny question, and it's a great question that right now no one has an, I say no one has an answer. That may not be strictly true. The way we've done it so far is that the grant money goes to a provider company who's in partnership with a county judge or a city or something like that. And once that grant money is given to the provider and they spend it and install the network, it's pretty much their infrastructure at that point. And they can choose to wholesale that to other providers if they wish, or not if they wish. Some very big providers do wholesale out facilities to smaller companies. Others don't do that so much. But that said, there is still I think there's still a public policy question here. I've raised it with Secretaries Preston, Hurst, and Walter. I've discussed it with Judge Porch, and if there are any providers on here that I've spoken to, you can attest to the fact that we've talked about it as well. And I'm talking about this around the state. When we spend this money and put in this infrastructure, there is at least the potential for creating monopolies that are unregulated, because internet services is unregulated largely today. So if we are comfortable with creating monopolies, then as you know, for the policymakers, then they're comfortable with it. If they want to promote competition and fund competition, then that's a decision for them to make as well. One of the things that we'll do in our master plan is show them the options, try to show them the pluses and minuses of each position, and then hopefully in their wisdom they'll come to grips with how to do that. Today, those dollars are spent by providers, and it's their infrastructure, it's their network to do with as they wish. In the future, I don't know if that'll be the case or not. That's up to the policymakers. One of the things that we see early on here is that affordability is a major issue. And we can talk about broadband internet service a lot, but we have to discuss broadband internet access with affordability included every single time. It always has to be part of the conversation. If you have service that costs $100 a month in a census block where the median income is $23,000 or $4,000 a year, and that happens all over the state, that's not affordable internet access. So the policymakers have a pretty heavy lift to figure that part out. Is that responsive to the question, you think?
Yes, sir, I believe so. And we have more questions coming through.
Okay.
How do we ascertain if our regional provider is willing to participate?
I don't know how you do that necessarily individually on your own. Shoot me their name and their contact information, and I'll be glad to reach out to them, because I am trying to figure out who all is going to participate. One of the things that we found is that participation's really, amongst the providers at least, is really pretty robust. But I want to give you an example. A very, very large provider is AT&T. And for quite a long while now, they have not participated in anything. They have sort of notably been on the sidelines, not participating in this process. I've had a very long meeting with representatives of AT&T. I can't announce anything because it's not my announcement to make, but I'm encouraged by their position, and I think that there's a possibility that they're going to try to participate at some point. And I think that's going to be a benefit to the state because they are such a large provider. There are other providers that are large that are in some transition because of pending sales or pending regulatory approvals and things. Not as clear if they're going to participate or if they'll be able to participate. But if you don't know if your carrier is going to participate or your provider wants to be part of this, get their information to me and I will reach out to them and try to ascertain that.
Perfect. Okay, so it looks like we have someone from the state of Mississippi on here. He says, I'm not familiar with the legislation in Arkansas. Are electrical co-ops allowed to get into the retail broadband business?
They absolutely are, and I think there are some co-op representatives on this call, and co-ops are certainly some of the folks that we're working with closely to figure out where they are, what they're doing, what their temperature is on the future. And there's a lot of activity. Some of the grants have gone to the co-ops. The co-ops have a lot of applications in. Several, not all the co-ops in Arkansas are participating, by the way, but several are, and they are, I think, a pretty important element in the future of broadband in Arkansas.
And I don't disagree. They're doing a good job up here in Northeast Arkansas. Our next question comes from a mayor. Can a franchise fee be applied to a broadband service?
That's above my pay grade. I'm not a lawyer. There is some discussion about that, and I think that's something you probably should get in front of your city attorney. Probably something you should put in front of your local legislators, your senator and your representatives. That is an ongoing conversation. And we know that the idea of a public-private partnership is now open and legal in Arkansas, so that a municipality could go ahead and seek its own grant, its own funding, and find a company that would design, a company that would engineer and install, a company that would operate, maybe 3 companies, one for each one of those disciplines. So public-private partnerships are certainly open, but the notion of a franchise fee on a provider is just simply not something I have any expertise in from a legal standpoint.
Did you have any follow-up questions, Mayor?
No, I didn't. Actually, I have contacted our city attorney, the Arkansas Municipal League, talked to them about it, and there's discussion about that, whether a cable company who's already got a franchise fee can be charged extra for internet, which they aren't paying yet, or if we have a telephone service who's in the area and is going to open up to broadband, can we charge an additional franchise fees, or a co-op that comes in, and First Letter Co-op is coming into our area, can we attach a franchise fee to that service also? I have posed those questions up the flagpole, if you will, and I don't have any answers yet. I thought maybe you might have one.
It may be difficult to get an answer on that one, Mayor. Traditionally, internet service is not taxed at all.
That's correct. Now you can't tax it, but a fee is different from a tax.
Right. Fees and taxes are different.
Yes.
So this is a tricky area from a regulatory and taxation issue or perspective, and I don't really have an answer to that. But I think it's something we're going to address, something we're going to talk about. There are those in the state that want broadband internet access to be classified as a utility, and want it to become a regulated utility. Want it to run through a public service commission or some kind of regulatory regime. We've spent the last 40 years getting away from telecom regulation largely in many ways, and the internet is is sort of the child of that deregulation over the last 40 years. So I think it's going to be an interesting question to see what policymakers do, whether they try to put the cow back in the regulatory barn at least a little bit, or if they try to. I can't imagine there being a service in this country or something in this country that doesn't have a tax or a fee applied to it at some point, some way. But right now, that is the nature of internet, and we'll see what the future holds. I don't know, but I think the lawyers and policymakers got to figure that out.
All right, we've got one more, and we have time for one more. What is your process or your next step in this process of analyzing the state and developing the master plan?
There's still a lot of data gathering going on, and we're doing that again, we've got teams that are out. I'm out with other folks, and we have multiple teams out gathering data around the state. That's why the survey is important. That's why the meetings are important. The technical team is studying every grant that has been awarded so far. They're studying every provider map, every FCC map, every public and private database, and we have several that we can get our hands on to see exactly where we are, factually where we are. And there's a difference between what an FCC map might show and what might be reality. So we're trying to find out exactly where we are. At the same time, we're reviewing every application that has been made for a grant. And then we can assume, or we can make assumptions about how many of those will be granted, where they'll go and what they'll be used for. And from there, we'll know where the gaps are. We'll know where we'll know where the holes are. And that's what the engineering team is doing now. They're going to start running their simulations in about 2 weeks. They're not quite finished with their data gathering, but they're getting pretty close. So we'll run a number of simulations over the next few weeks, and that's kind of where we are. We expect to wrap all of this up by the 1st of April, but we have a lot of data gathering that we're still doing right at the moment.
Great. Thank you so much. And if you will send the survey and the meeting request form to Mary Margaret, she will get them out to everyone. I know we have some in the chat that are requesting that, so we want to be sure and do that. And of course, here at Arkansas State University, if we could host a meeting, any of your meetings for you, if you wanted to do something regionally or whatever, we're happy to help in any way and even promote what meetings you do have. So we
appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet. And thank you so much for your time today. And we'll move on into our next presentation. So thanks,
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, our next presenter is Angie Cooper. Angie leads Heartland Summit and Heartland Forward's programming efforts. The Heartland Summit is the flagship convening of Heartland Forward, a Bentonville, Arkansas-based think and do tank focused on advancing economic performance and opportunity in the center of the country. As Chief Program Officer, Angie is focused on turning Heartland Forward's research into action, creating new partnerships, leading on policy solutions, and serving as a resource for Heartland communities. For more than 16 years, Angie worked in international and domestic public policy and government affairs for Walmart Stores Incorporated, most recently as a Senior Director of Global Public Policy. Angie also worked in various departments within Walmart, including merchandising, public affairs, state and local government relations, and the Walmart Foundation. She's a native of Oklahoma and a graduate of Oklahoma State University, and she's here to tell us about Heartland Forward's broadband initiatives. Ms. Cooper, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we're all excited to learn about Heartland Forward's activities. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, and we can take questions at the end.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it looks like you have a really good group and have had some great discussion to date on the broadband initiatives across the state of Arkansas. I know you mentioned a little bit about Heartland Forward, but maybe I'll start there for those that are not familiar with our organization. We're a fairly new organization. We started in 2019, and we do call ourselves a policy think and do tank. And we are a public 501c3 that focuses on really the mission of how do we help change the narrative about the middle of the country and kickstart economic growth. It's exciting to have a policy think and do tank focused on the specific region based in Arkansas, but we do cover 20 states. So we define the heartland, think of everything from North Dakota down to Texas, over to Alabama, up to Michigan, Ohio, and all the states in between. And as we have gotten started, I like to say kind of the initial phase of our work and starting in 2019 was really on the think side. So we have a full team of in-house research and economists. We work with other external fellows on the research side, individuals like Richard Florida, who's done a lot of work around economic development in the creative class, Joel Kotkin, who's former reporter, now journalist, and works with us on data analysis and research, along with a few other external fellows. We really started the do side of the house in 2020, and the programmatic work, which we call the do side of the house, is really about how do we put our research into action and how do programs influence research. So we focus as an organization on 4 main pillars: innovation and entrepreneurship, human capital and workforce development, health and wellness, and regional and economic competitiveness. And as we were getting started, we're hitting a number of different programmatic areas around the innovation entrepreneurship. Many of you in the state of Arkansas maybe have read or followed some of our research. We worked closely with the governor's office earlier this year and put out an Arkansas Economic Recovery Report highlighting initiatives that we feel are important for the state to continue. We just put out a report around entrepreneurial capacity in the heartland, and we know we still have lots of opportunity in the heartland, but as we really kind of started looking at where are there opportunities, where is there a great need, where do we need more public and private partnerships, as Lou mentioned earlier, and engagement, broadband came to the top of the list. We believe as an organization that's driven on how do we improve economic development in the middle of the country, the lack of or not having high-speed internet access is an economic issue. We all know, and many of us on the phone today are in various different industries, but if you don't have access to internet service, it's going to impact your healthcare. It's going to impact how you search for a job, train for a job, and do a job. Obviously, we saw the huge impact on education. COVID kind of shined a light on that. But we know now our students aren't always just going to be learning in the classroom. They're going to be learning at home. They're going to be learning in their communities. So not having that in-home device and not having the internet service available to them is extremely impactful. And you know, it's the 21st century. We're communities focused on innovation and technology. And, you know, today it's 5G and fiber, tomorrow, and things like Starlink. Tomorrow it's going to be new technologies. And we believe as an organization that we must all come together to help solve for this issue, to make Arkansas a viable place to live, work, and play, and the rest of the country. So with kind of that mindset, we launched earlier this year what we call Connecting the Heartland to High-Speed Internet Access. And we're focused right now in 4 states. So that includes Arkansas, Illinois, Tennessee, and Ohio. And when we started the initiative, knowing that many people have been at this for quite some time, but it's a huge challenge, and we believe it's not one organization that's going to solve. It's all of us working together, and appreciate the road trip that Lou and others have been on across the state to really figure out where are the needs in Arkansas and how can we all work together to accelerate progress and utilize this historic amount of funding that has come into the state and come in to many communities across the heartland in the country. So our Connecting the Heartland High-Speed Internet campaign is focused on a few things. As we sort of were gearing up and talking to our state broadband offices in the 4 states we're focused, we were hearing a lot that, you know, and this was, you know, pre even some of the emergency funding coming down due to COVID, but there was a real question of, we know there's money out there, but it's confusing. It's coming from various federal agencies. We're never really sure how much we're going to get. There's gray areas a little bit in implementation, and there's sort of a lack in opportunity to sort of, how do we close the gap between all levels of government? So that was kind of our first area of focus. And I'll touch a little bit more on, as we got started on that piece, it led to some of our larger initiatives that we've launched specifically in Arkansas. So one, how do we close the gap between all levels of government? We all could probably say you could name any policy issue and realize that there's opportunities on that front. And then we looked at it and said, okay, where do we want to put our additional focus? And like many other people that are working on this issue, we know there's an availability An access opportunity. We know affordability. Affordability is probably the biggest barrier to people getting connected. And then adoptability. And people think sometimes that adoptability is just in rural communities or certain populations, but digital skills are real. And how do we help solve for that? So we launched and started about 6 months ago our efforts, and it's essentially a multi-year, multi-state communications and advocacy campaign. And the first kind of initiative was going back to how do we close the gap between all levels of government. So we've been hosting these workshops, and they're virtual, but I call them workshops because they're really action oriented. It's an opportunity for federal officials to be on the phone with state officials and community leaders to be on the phone, and for them to talk about, you know, where their needs, where their gaps. And one of the first workshops we held, we invited, now she's officially been announced, Chairwoman Rosenworcel of the FCC. And that first workshop was focused on the affordability bucket. And she was talking about, it was right before the FCC was rolling out EBB, the Emergency Broadband Benefit. And they were talking about how it was going to be executed in states. And as we all know, the EBB program passed by Congress is $3.2 billion to help with households that are eligible for, they receive $50 for service a month, and then $100 one-time opportunity to buy a device, a computer for in-home. And as Chairwoman Rosenworcel and her staff were sharing, you know, we're excited, we have these funds, we want to get it, you know, into the households that need it most as fast as we can. Their plan was to roll it out online. And we saw that, you know, that was a big challenge, a lot of communications, even with COVID and communication and vaccinations. We were rolling out information to people online that were not necessarily online. So we started working really closely with the State Broadband Office in Arkansas and various different agencies and organizations, and said, we need to run a true grassroots campaign. So from June until September, we ran radio ads about how to get connected. You maybe have seen some of our billboards with information from the FCC about how to get connected. We sent flyers out. We trained over 500 Arkansas librarians because we know our libraries are still the central kind of community network, and made sure we worked alongside the FCC to train those librarians to make sure those coming into the library to use internet service had the information they needed to see if they were eligible for EBB, as well as sign up and get connected in that way. We also have worked really closely with the Arkansas Department of Education with kind of back to school, and got information out to families. We've worked really closely with the Arkansas media all across the state. There's an Arkansas PBS EBB video running right now. And really we're just kind of pushing that effort. We're announcing actually today, to expand upon our EBB efforts, a partnership with LULAC, a national organization, but it will be focused activities in our states and across the heartland of how do we get to the Latinx community. When you look at just nationally, I mentioned earlier, it's a $3.2 billion program. Today, about 6 million households have signed up for EBB, and but the FCC has projected that about 36 million are eligible. So we have a long way to go. Just through that month of June to September, and mind you, there's lots of other variables, and many of your efforts, probably of you on the call today, were part of this, but we've seen an increase, about 800,000 Arkansans that are eligible for the benefit have signed up. So we're excited about that, but we believe there is still more work to be done. Another initiative we took on during kind of the launch of our efforts is we partnered up with an organization called Lead for America. It's sort of like what you would think about as an AmeriCorps or a Teach for America concept, but Lead for America, they focus on how do they take recently graduated students, bring them back to their hometowns in the middle of the country and help solve problems. So we partnered up with Land O'Lakes and other organizations alongside Lead for America to run the American Connection Corps. And we have 2 fellows right now in the state of Arkansas that are working on specifically affordability and adoptability initiatives. And those, one of our fellows is in Mayor Scott's office in Little Rock, and then another fellow is in Southwest Arkansas, working on initiatives in the Regional Development and Planning District. So we're excited about what's next there. Our fellow specifically in Little Rock is going deeper in Little Rock on the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, and in places like Little Rock, they have more, and we know this across the state, there's different needs. They have more of an affordability and adoptability piece versus other parts of the state. They just need the technology and they don't have it, and we need to focus on the last mile. The last thing I'll mention, and then would love to open it up to questions and answer questions, hear from you about some work maybe potentially that others are doing and how we could collaborate. So when we look at sort of what's next for the coming year, we do still believe that there needs to be more opportunities to modernize policy, ensure that we have the right policies in place to continue to push and accelerate. We talked, when we talk about affordability and the EBB program, which there's still lots of dollars there, so that's not going to run out in the near future. But when we look at what is passing through, potentially through the infrastructure package, it lowers the amount that households will receive. So today they can receive $50. The broader package, if passed, is $30. So where will there be a gap? Do we need to think about the cost of service? Do local communities in the state need to think about how do they fill that gap, and how do we make sure that everyone has affordable high-speed internet? And then we're also working to kind of build, taking a model from a few other states, like Virginia and Mississippi, where they've built kind of a public-private partnership coalition where groups are working within the state. They're providing guidance and opportunities back to the broadband office. That's something that we've seen that has worked in our other states, and we want to bring that to Arkansas. We also want to help these communities not reinvent the wheel every time. So we're bringing in some of our national partners and coalitions to help with, what are the models? What should it look like? And how can they get more grant funding? We know a lot of communities, like they could go after more funds, but they don't have the capacity to actually sit down, write the grant and ensure that they get it, and then, push the funds out. So we're real excited about sort of what's to come. We're just getting started, and look forward to working with many of you, and just appreciate you coordinating calls like this, because we can't work in silos on this issue, and we can't, this is something that needs to happen now. And so the more we talk and communicate, the better off the state of Arkansas is going to be.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I do have a few questions who've come through. One was, where were the ads run across Arkansas?
They were ran all across the state. So we did both paid and earned media. We were really fortunate. I think our, on the earned side, our communities and our media understand this is something that was important to get out. But yeah, they were run across the state. And like I said, you're going to see a little bit more on Arkansas PBS on a PSA that's running, as well as some specific work being done in Little Rock. I will information both in English and in Spanish. So if interested, we are happy to share that toolkit with others, and for you to share with your organizations.
Oh, that's great. And if you could email that to Mary Margaret, we could go ahead and get that out to everyone who's on here today. So that.
Okay, that would
very
be
good.
great. I would be happy to.
Thank you. Okay, the next question. How are other states in the heartland making broadband affordable to everyone? How are they ensuring that everyone will be able to afford to take advantage of this utility? I recently attended a conference in Arkansas where they said that they would let the providers handle affordability. Is it realistic to assume that the companies will provide affordable options, especially when they have to spend so much money on the front end?
Yeah, I mean, the affordability piece is a real challenge because as we're moving fast and the industry is moving fast to get technologies out there. And I will say in Heartland Forward, we're technology neutral, because we think it just needs to get there, and in some areas, it's truly right now not affordable to put fiber in the ground. Now that is a great solution, but we just need to get people access. And so we are working, we've seen in our other states that through coalitions, sort of like I mentioned earlier, they're helping provide guidance on some of that affordability piece. There's policies that folks are looking at that provide transparency of, okay, if I do get a bill, do I understand my bill? Do I, that we sometimes processes become very, very complicated when you layer on kind of not just the service, but the taxes and all of that. So like, how do we create transparency and educate people on the type of service that they're getting and who their service provider is, because if you're someone that, moves from one community to another, just in the state of Arkansas, you might be paying, a deposit, you don't get the deposit, but there's all these things that become very complicated that we really think that we need transparency and we need to streamline the process. And then lastly, Heartland Forward being a think and do tank, we're right now working on some research and survey data that will hopefully be out the first of next year around the affordability piece, and essentially surveying people, what is the threshold that individuals think is affordable? What are people willing to pay? Because we are seeing in communities that the infrastructure might be there, but people aren't still taking advantage of it. So is it because they can't afford it? Is it because there's an adoptability issue? There's a lot of trust issues we see in various communities. And so we're going to be putting out some research and hopefully creating what we're thinking as a Heartland guide around affordability. So more to come on that, but it's a real issue that we need to solve for, and it does need to have transparency, and we need to streamline the process.
Very good. That is the one positive thing I thought came as a result of COVID was the education piece of why broadband is important, but it sounds like it is still there to some degree. The next question is, are there librarians trained everywhere? For example, Pine Bluff.
Answer to that. So we did train librarians across the state, but let me find out. And Andrea, is it best to just respond back to you to get that information?
That'll be fine. Sure.
Okay. I apologize. I don't know. I want to say yes, but I don't. I want to have the right answer for you. And if the answer is not Pine Bluff yet, let us talk to the person that asked the question, and we can figure out if we can get some more information to those librarians.
You bet. And I can just connect you directly. It's Mildred Franco from Pine Bluff. So she does a great job down there and a good community leader for you to connect with anyway.
That's great.
Okay. Any other questions that we have? Ms. Marks, it looks like you are able to hear now, so that's good. And we will have the recording available on our website at a later date. So whatever part you couldn't hear, hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch. let's see here. I don't think I've missed questions. You did a good job going through everything. I'm really excited about the research that you're doing now about affordability and to see what the results are on that. I was just thinking, what would be my threshold? And I can't live without it. So I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, the threshold of not living without it, but also we all have to be sort of smart consumers because we're in communities sometimes, even in where I am located, they increase the speeds, but I didn't realize I could have access to increased speeds. So we have to continue to educate our communities on what is coming out. And there will be a lot more, right? One of the big things too that we're thinking about in this space is if the infrastructure package passes, and I'm seeing right now breaking news pop up from the Speaker of the House that maybe today it will, but communities and states are all going to have the same amount of funding. So when we think about our workforce in this space, do we have a trained workforce to actually go put the fiber in the ground? Do we have the IT specialists to help support the broadband office in various communities? So we're working also on Heartland Forward. And if there's anyone that's interested in working in this space, please contact me. I'm at cooper@heartlandforward.org. But we need to make sure Arkansas is prepared on the training piece for these types of jobs, because we're going to be competing with other states, and we want to make sure we get the top talent so we can get our dollars out and build the infrastructure. So would love to connect on that. And oh, sorry, Andrea, it is cooper@heartlandforward.org,
Oh,
not com. So that's okay.
I will correct that right now. Okay, do we have anyone else have questions out there for Ms. Cooper? If not, are there any other initiatives Heartland Forward is taking on right now that you want to mention to this group?
No, like I said, I just really appreciate the invitation to speak with you. Thank you to everyone that it has continued work on the ground, and just really look forward to being in touch. Like I said, we can't work in silos on this issue, and we've got to all come together and continue communicating. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to working with Heartland Forward on this, and as well as all the other initiatives you're working on. So thank you, Angie. Our next presenters are Jeff Chapman, Vice President and General Manager of Right Fiber, a division of Ritter Communications, and Stuttgart Mayor Norma Strabla. And I believe, is the mayor on? Anyway, they're going, I see Mr. Chapman, but you may be doing this by yourself, huh?
That's fine. That's not a problem. If Mayor Strabla wasn't able to join, she must have some pressing matters she's dealing with.
Yeah, well, that's usually the case with mayors. All kinds of things going on, but we really appreciate you being with us today. And Mr. Chapman joined Ritter Communications in January 2021. He brings fiber to the home knowledge and experience to Ritter Communications, with his most recent role as Executive Vice President, Operations for North State Communications in High Point, North Carolina. Mr. Chapman leads Right Fiber projects for Ritter Communications service markets. He oversees all aspects of the sales function, sales operations, engineering, solutions, delivery, constructions, and operations. Mr. Chapman has a business administration degree from Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri, originally from Arkansas. Yay. He's married and has 2 children, enjoys traveling, do-it-yourself projects, and being on the water. And then if the mayor is able to join us, we'll let you know she's on, but we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you to let us know what's going on with Ritter Communications and about your project there in Stuttgart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do we have screen share available?
Yes,
We do.
you should have access.
Chapman, if you want, on your bar down there, your main bar that has, shows your mic and your video, you should see a screen share option there. It should be a box.
All right. All right, I've got it now, I believe. My apologies, I've got 3 screens in front of me and I'm trying to juggle between the 3.
It happens to all of us.
All right, can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We really appreciate it. I tell you, we have stepped out and worked with the city of Stuttgart now for almost, I would say, 9 months, 10 months, getting the fiber to the home project based off of a CARES grant that we won. And it has been, I would say, probably one of the best experiences for both the city and for Ritter Communications going forward. We hope to definitely be involved in a lot more of these because we love just seeing what it does to the state and to the economics and to just the residents of these communities. Some of the things that a lot of people don't know about Ritter, we are a seasoned telecom company. We have been in existence for over 100 years in Arkansas. So, being part of the Arkansas footprint is something that we know very well. And, with our brand and our actual residential fiber to the home offering, we've actually chosen to create a new brand called Right Fiber. And that was actually launched this year in 2021, which is why, I'm on board leading the efforts there. And the unique thing is we are a rural company. We've always been up in the northeastern part of the state, and we have focused on the rural communities as well as a lot of the bigger cities throughout the state. And partnering with the city such as Stuttgart has been absolutely wonderful for us. We have to thank the state for allowing us to be part of that, and the city. And I know that if Mayor Strablo was here, she would share her excitement and how key this has been for the city, and the experience of working together has been rewarding for both of us. The benefits that we see as a provider into a city such as Stuttgart is, solely, based on the pandemic and the thing that, the country has been faced with for the last, 18 plus months. Being in a situation like that, it's quickly identified how important connectivity is in rural areas. And so, that was the thing that drove us to really focusing on how we can expand our network, expand our services, and actually help in areas where we know that we're underserved and that needed that assistance in order to be able to function in everyday life. For a lot of us who live in big cities where, broadband isn't an issue, we take it for granted because it's available and we use it and we like it. You go to a city such as Stuttgart, and the limitations of connectivity really hinders the market and hinders the not only the learning experience, it also hinders the healthcare, the remote work situations that many of us were in. And that is something that really, from a standpoint of technology and broadband, was difficult for a lot of residential populations to overcome. And so being able to work together in a market like this has been just phenomenal. And we've really seen some great things happening. With that comes challenges. Don't get me wrong. To manage the demand that we've had to communicate with residents through several different aspects. I mean, social media has played very, very big into this market. Direct mail, partnerships with the Chamber of Commerce and the mayor's office and City Hall have been key to really getting the word out, helping people understand the status. We have a network map that we're showing there of the city. And those are just the areas and how we break down our actual footprint in a build this size. It was roughly 4,500 homes that we were building through, and we wanted to make sure that we touched as many of those as we could. Under the state grant, we had to build all of the houses inside the city limits, and we have accomplished that. But then there are also areas outside of those city limits, that are underserved and that don't have the ability to get the broadband that they need. So, Right Fiber and Ritter, took those areas as well, and we self-funded those expansions and those extensions in order to encompass a greater geography of our serving area. Resource allocation is really important as well. I mean, when we come into a market, we come in fast and we come in strong. And it's amazing the welcoming you get when you come into a town that, that is in need of broadband. And what we have found is that the local municipality, the local utility providers, everyone has been willing and able to help us succeed. And we've really worked on that partnership, and that's key, is having a good partnership with the municipalities and with the local governments. But resources are, as we all know, very challenging at this point in time in our environment. And, making sure that you have the ability to deploy, to supply the demand, and also to deliver, install, and maintain is definitely key in a successful market launch. And that is some things that we focus on daily. We look at, how we serve the market, how we manage the market, how we expand the market, how we will continue to do that going forward. And communication and information distribution has been, a process that we have really grown over the last several months. We do provide a lot of educational resources to the residents in a number of ways, and we'll actually touch on that in some upcoming slides. But communication to these communities are really important and vital for them to understand. When you're going to get there, when you're going to be turning up services for them, how fast they can expect, for a broadband to be in their area. And, all of that is predicated, of course, on, construction and, materials and permitting and things of that nature that all service providers, deal with daily. But really keeping a good channel of communication with your residents is key. And that's what we really try to focus on through a ton of different areas and different ways. A lot of what Angie Cooper mentioned previously, as far as transparency, is something that we have really become proactive and passionate about. We have worked that into our business plan and into our model for Right Fiber. When we develop our products and services, we wanted to focus on two things, and that was future-proofing our network and simplified products. Future-proofing was very important for us because when we went through the design and deployment aspect, we wanted to use state-of-the-art technology. So we actually deploy XGS-PON, which basically is capable of growing up to 10 gig per residential customer as needed. We also offer an IP-based TV, IP-based voice services. We went with simplified billing, and a lot of people don't understand what simplified billing is. Well, if you're like me and you get a bill from a provider, it takes about 20 minutes to understand, if you ever understand what they're billing you for. And we took a different approach. We took some feedback from different focus groups, from different customers, and we said, what would we want as a customer? And the number one thing that we received as a response was simplified billing. So we introduced what we call a flat rate pricing structure, meaning that what you see is what you pay, and you don't pay a penny more. Taxes, fees, things of that nature are all inclusive of your fees. So when you get a bill, what you see on your bill is what you pay. We also don't offer contracts. We don't have any hidden fees. We don't charge for installation. We have unlimited bandwidth. There's no proration of billing. We've made this as simple as we possibly could. And that's important. Simplicity is so important to the customer and to the providers that are out there that are sending different billing formats to different customers. I'm sure they would agree that billing is definitely something that you need to focus on and make sure that you really pay attention to and listen to the voice of your customer. As far as affordability, Ritter Communications is an approved EBB provider. We went through the processes of making sure that we had that option available for our customers in the areas that we are working on. There are needs for that, and we wanted to make sure that we did not, have a situation where we could not provide a service to a customer that needed service for broadband, and so we did go through that process. Also, our teams work individually with our customers to kind of educate them on the process and actually assist them in the process if needed. I believe Angie also said that some of the programs are online and you had to go through a process of registering online and doing things of that nature. And some of the residents that we talk to and customers we speak with don't have that online capability. So we have to walk them through it, help them understand how to get registered. And we do that because we want to educate them and make them understand that their experience with us is very important. And, at the end of the day, we are trying to spread broadband throughout the state of Arkansas through every channel possible. Some of the things that we have done proactively as a company is provided a lot of educational resources that are through video. So when you go to our websites and you go to our customer facing media, you will see a lot of educational resource. One is what to expect during construction. To me, that was very key. A lot of people don't understand what we're trying to do and why we're doing it, and they need to just have a good sense of understanding of why we're in their front yard or why we are putting cable in to support their needs. And so we go through that in a video. We also do that for installation. Again, educating the customer, making sure if they've never had a service, what to expect. That's very, very important. We also use a lot of social media, print materials, our website, our FAQs. We use a lot of in-person events. That is something that actually has been the most successful, in my opinion, that we have done. And we hold local in-person events and markets so that residents can come, ask questions, inquire about services. It is literally an open forum for them to talk and for us to be able to assist them. We've had 2 so far in Stuttgart, and they were very successful. We actually had the mayor attended and several people from key city positions that were there that actually helped us promote the fiber to the home process and answer questions with us. So they were very helpful in that process. We also do a lot of video troubleshooting support, networking, how-to discussions, IP security. We will be working with future blogs and educational seminars and programs. Again, trying to help customers who haven't had the ability to get broadband in the past to understand how to use it, how to work with it, what programs are out there, what functionality is out there that they've never been able to get or receive. And really, it's more of community leaders and providers working together. This was, I think, the most important slide in the whole deck, in my opinion, is making sure that as community leaders, you understand, having the right partner is definitely critical. You have to be able to ask the right questions. You have to be able to understand if the partner that you're choosing, that you're working with, that's going to be delivering high-speed bandwidth is the right one for the needs of the community. And we take it a little step further. We actually try to get very invested in our communities. We support our communities. We provide solutions that they need, not ones that we want them to have. We listen to feedback. We want to make sure that as a provider, we're going to be able to continue to give ongoing support to the community. We have to make sure that we are ready for the success of a market being launched such as Stuttgart, and that we have the resources to deliver. And those are all important things for a partner to be able to bring to the table in an opportunity such as this. So we have definitely kept a open mind, forward-thinking approach to making sure that we can address all of those items, and that we are the right partner for any city or county that's actually getting broadband services, from Ritter and Wright Fiber. And the key to success is open communication. Especially from a partner standpoint toward a community. As a partner, we definitely need to listen to the community and understand their needs, but also as a community, you need to trust your partner and let your partner kind of guide you through the process, because there are some things that we can share from our experience that will definitely help you, in the successful deployment of a network such as this, and an ongoing, relationship and growth pattern, for success. And that is what we all want. We all want to drive in the right direction. So that is really, the key things that we focus on and we look at. And I don't know if Mayor Strabla made it or not.
She has. She is on here with us.
Great.
Mayor Strabla, and real quick, let me tell everyone a little bit about her. She is a new mayor, a lifelong resident of Stuttgart, though, but was elected to office in April of this year. In addition to her role as mayor, she serves as executive director of Arkansas RSVP, one of the largest volunteer networks in the nation for people 55 and over. She served on the city council in Stuttgart for nearly a decade and has been involved in numerous community projects benefiting the city. So Mayor Strabla, we thank you for being on here, and I think that you got on right in time, and we had started a couple minutes early, so my apologies for that, but we're so glad you joined us.
This kind of proves how important communication is, especially with the internet. It has been a pleasure to work with Ritter. Every time we've had a problem, they've been right there with us. They work very well with my staff. I mean, I can only just praise them. We've already got some of our north end of town already hooked up, and they've already got the fast internet, and I am so looking forward to it coming to our area. And I understand that will be in the next few weeks. So, I mean, we're so excited because it's going to give our businesses and our students the opportunity to have a fast internet and be able to be competitive in this new world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, for saying that. And I have to echo her comments. We couldn't have asked for a better partner than the city of Stuttgart. They have been key in our success there. Just working with the local, like I said, the local water departments and the mayor's office, and moving obstacles together has been absolutely rewarding for both. And they are a great partner to have, and we see the excitement. I tell people all of the time that it's hard for me to stop and actually even buy a bottle of water or to get fuel in my truck, because when they see the Wright Fiber truck, they pull over, and I usually have 8 or 10 people stop me and ask me when we're going to have fiber to their house. So it's a great experience, and the welcoming from the community is just overwhelming, and we're seeing that over and over and over in our grant areas that we're working in. It's a funny story I will tell. It's a different focus whenever you go out and you tear somebody's yard up a little bit, putting fiber in, and you disturb their property, and there's always some uneasiness there. And a lot of people come out and ask questions and want to know, how we're going to restore that and making sure that we're going to put it back the way that we found it, which we always do. But in Stuttgart, it's different because when the residents and the citizens come out, they bring cookies and
That's right.
lemonade out, and they want to know if they can help dig holes for them. It's just a different approach. It's so refreshing to be in an environment that way, and in the underserved areas that we are fortunate enough to be building, just seeing that type of feedback just again resonates with me, because the demand is so high and the need is so overwhelming that they're willing to do whatever it takes to get us there, and that is something that we'll treasure forever.
We're really excited. Even our small businesses, we're very fortunate. Our downtown is almost completely full. I think we have one empty building. So this is going to give our small businesses the opportunity to compete with the bigger businesses by having this broadband and with Ritter coming in. We're really excited.
That's great. And so if anyone has any questions for Mr. Chapman or Mayor Strobel, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will hopefully get those answered for you. Mayor, I know that you're relatively new, but if you had any advice for other mayors who are on the phone and looking to connect their communities, what would that advice be?
Ritter. Ritter Communication. Everything they've said, they've done. They've had 2 wonderful meetings where they're able to answer a lot of the questions the community was having. And as a mayor, you get a lot of phone calls and you get a lot of complaints. I've had very few phone calls, and when there has been a complaint, Ritter has been right there with our local water company, making sure it was taken care of, and taken care of very promptly.
Well, being here in Jonesboro, of course, we love Ritter Communications too. They're a great partner for the city and the communities around this area. We have a question just come through. Was the project financed with just the grant, or was there investment from the city?
Yeah, we didn't ask for any investment from the city of Stuttgart. What we do as a company, we actually self-fund any difference in price. We did have a grant for the Stuttgart citywide build, but we also invested over almost $1 million of our own money into the market to make sure that we have the connectivity that is needed to satisfy that. We take a different approach toward the grant application process. We don't ask for 100% funding on anything. We always put our own capital into the projects as well.
Very good. Do we have any other questions? Mayor, I know that you didn't get as long to talk. If there's anything else you want to add, please just jump right on in and go ahead. There is another question. Is the service expensive?
We have different service levels. If you can go to our website and see our prices, there's no secret here. Our 200, we only sell 3 packages. It's 200 meg, 500 meg, and 1 gig. And our 200 meg service starts at $60 a month. And that is, again, flat rate pricing. So your bill will be $60 a month. There will be no additional fees on that. With the $50 EBB program credit, residents can have 200 meg for as little as $10 a month.
All right, that's perfect. I guess the last question that we have is, how are the ducks down in Stuttgart?
They're coming. It looks good. We got a lot of geese, and the duck. I also work with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm very active in there. Been there since 2003. So I can tell you, they're coming. It's looking good. All the duck clubs around here are filling up, and the hotels are full, and it's going to be a good season. And I encourage anyone to please come. We got the festival coming up the week of Thanksgiving, World Champion Duck Calling Festival, and it is going to be a big one this year. We're excited.
I bet it will be a big one. It's now that people are starting to get out and about. So good. I know you'll have a good one, and we appreciate both of you for being on here today. Of course, Ritter Communications is headquartered up here in Jonesboro, and we don't need them moving to Stuttgart. So, Mayor, I know that you like them, but don't take them away.
Again, I want to apologize for me being late. Again, it's communication. And as we know, the internet's very important these days. And effective
Yes.
communication is the key to success.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And we'll go right on into our last, but certainly not least, presentation of the day, led by Mr. Don Benton. He is with the Arkansas Department of Education, and something's happening here. There we go. And as Assistant Commissioner, Don oversees technology initiatives and resources, such as the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education Cyber Threat Response Team, Ambassador Academy, Arkansas Digital Sandbox, Trion, and the Technology Resources and Initiatives Team, along with many other educational technology-related programs and initiatives. He also oversees the Arkansas Public School Computer Network, which includes the eSchool Plus statewide student information system. Benton oversees various initiatives, grant programs for Arkansas, including Virtual Arkansas, Team Digital, and Arkansas Educational Service Cooperative Technology Coordinators. So you have had a busy year and a half, I know, and we really appreciate you joining us today to talk about how broadband will be used in primary and secondary education in the post-pandemic world and in preparation for future events. So I will turn it over to you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Andre, if you can give me a thumbs up and let me know
Yes.
you guys and see me. I apologize, first of all, for that picture you see on my slide there. I don't look anything like that because since COVID started, I haven't had a haircut and I quit shaving. So my wife's about ready to wring my neck over that. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me to join you. It looks like we have a very diverse group in this meeting, which is wonderful because you guys are out in the community and in the private sector, and you're listening to all the things that happen within those communities. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about the educational side, the K-12 side. I work directly for Secretary Johnny Key, and when he asked me to speak on this topic, I was really excited because this is something that we have actually lived and breathed for the last 20 months or longer since we've been dealing with things that have been exposed. So I have a slideshow. I'm going to try to share that portion right now. And give me just a second here. I'm gonna make sure I don't share the wrong thing. And if it does, then we'll try to do something else. I'll tell you what I can do that might work even better. Because for some reason it's not letting me share my screen or share it properly. I'm going to put the link to my slideshow in the chat box. So that way you guys can just grab the link, open it on your end.
Don,
Yes,
did you send us your slideshow already?
I did. I sent a link in a Google Doc.
You're fine. Give me just a moment and let me see if I can pull it up.
Wonderful, wonderful. Then I'll get back in the window here and I'll let you work on that end of it.
I think your hair makes you look a lot younger.
Well, my wife thinks it makes me look like a mean old man. I told the guys I'm using it to cover up the bald spot. How's that?
It's funny.
Well, while he's doing that, I can go ahead and start talking to you guys about some of the things that are within my slides. That's not going to slow me down any if you guys are okay with that. So we have experienced a lot of new learning, I guess, if you want to call it that, through connectivity, through the lens of connectivity. And what we realized from the educational side is that along with all the community members and your businesses and everything, that you realize, and you can go to the next slide if you want to, that we have recognized the internet is not a luxury. It is definitely a necessity, especially when you look at telemedicine and telecommuting with all the folks who are engaged in work from home initiatives provided by their companies, but more importantly with education. And when we went remote last year on March 13th and the governor had to make that announcement, it was very overwhelming to a lot of our educators and a lot of our schools because they just didn't know if they were prepared for that. And what we realized, and you can go to the next slide, please, is that we were going to expose many, many gaps that we have in the education sector that we were not ready for. So as we started thinking about those gaps that we were exposing or opening up, we realized that this discussion need to revolve around equality versus equity. And it's one thing when you give equal technology to people, but there's a whole nother level of discussion that revolves around the equity piece, because just because you give someone a hotspot doesn't mean that hotspot's going to work in that community or in that area, depending on where their home is. Because if you're on the wrong side of the hill or the wrong side of the lake or the wrong side of the mountain or the wrong side of the highway even, you may not have equitable communication or connectivity when you deal with the digital learning initiatives that we were pushing this year. You can go to the next slide, please. And even go to the next slide. All right, so one thing we learned through this process is redefining blended learning and what were the gaps. And we spent a lot of time trying to wrap our minds around that. So in the beginning, pre-pandemic, we were looking at defining blended learning as just the other thing we did, the thing we did to enhance learning, the thing that we did in schools to add digital components to it. Pardon me. And then we realized after the COVID pandemic started that the blended learning took a whole new definition. And what we gained a deeper appreciation for is all the efforts that we had already done in Arkansas to build connectivity or capacity for connectivity with broadband in Arkansas. But we also realized we still had a long way to go. One of the things that we have done in Arkansas, fortunately, at the school level, was we had all the schools connected. All the schools were connected. Our average connectivity rate was about 100K per student. We worked with Education Superhighway and realized we were running a little bit low on connectivity rates for schools on campus learning. And then we got permission from Secretary Key and from the governor's office to move forward with enhancing that speed. So we were able to ramp up connectivity on the campuses and at the school level to about 200K per second. So in some schools, we realized that meant increasing their bandwidth, their school bandwidth, up to 4 or 5 times faster. Well, that's all fine and that's all good when you're on school campus and learning's taking place on the school campuses with the students. So what do you do when schools are not at home? Well, we started digging around and realizing that a lot of, and I appreciate the Ritter presentation just a few moments ago, I caught the back end of that, is that you guys are working with those communities. But what we realized with some of our providers, and this is through the state broadband office, and I got to work with some folks through there, is that 25.3 was not always 25.3 when we talk about connectivity. And that some of our heat maps or our maps that would show connectivity or coverage areas weren't, I don't want to say they were misinforming their clients, but they just weren't accurate down to the address level. And when we started seeing that, we noticed that even just as simple as saying, well, we have money to pay for connectivity wasn't just that simple, because there were some areas where there wasn't a good, strong infrastructure in place. So we started working with Arkansas State Broadband Office. And I know in the beginning, the governor had committed, I think initially it was like $25 million, then they ramped it up to $100 million. And then the last I heard, which I have a link somewhere in one of my slides here, was to provide up to an additional $250 million on top of all that other money to help enhance rural connectivity. So we're real fortunate that they've done that. But also, as we're leading up to that discussion about rural broadband and connectivity to the last mile down the dirt road, we were seeing lots of funds and have been seeing lots of funds coming into the K-12 arena. And we talk about access to technology devices for learning through programs called ECF, that's the Emergency Connectivity Fund. E-rate, which was already in place in schools, we're taking advantage of that to get enhanced connectivity on campus. But ECF took it to a different level. ECF allows us to take and purchase connectivity for kids with hotspots and through carriers to be able to connect those students directly to better broadband and better internet. And then, of course, it leads to a couple of other funds that we're working with, and those are the ESSER and the ARP funds, American Recovery Plan funds, to help us enhance connectivity for all of our kids. And those are not just technology funds. The ARP, ESSER, that's for a big, broad learning loss and keeping schools open. There's a lot more, but there is a technology component to that. So what we've realized is that we've not had an issue with connectivity as far as, devices. We're 1-to-1 in Arkansas. And in many cases, our students are 2-to-1, and in some cases 3-to-1, meaning up to 3 different devices per kid. So we've got a lot of technology in the hands of our kids. We've got take-home technology in the hands of our kids, but we still have that big gap of connectivity that's equitable for all of our kids. And even the equity issue is not just a poverty, non-poverty issue, because even those of us who live in areas of our communities where there's just not an internet provider, or the internet provided is not robust enough to handle full-on digital synchronous learning, we realized that there was a wider and bigger discussion, which we believe is going to be handled more so through the Arkansas State Broadband Office. Another thing we talked about too was the assistance and support for our students and families. We realized that a lot of our parents and kids, not only did they not have internet access or quality internet access, they were also not up to date on how to use that. So from the school point of view, their K-12 point of view, we realized we needed to ramp up efforts to teach and get our parents and students that could connect at home, give them the ability not only to connect, but also to use the tools that we're providing them. And we've also been gathering data. We've been gathering so much data. I would like to even say we're almost drowning in data because we have so much data, and we've been working with several partners on gathering more data. This year through eSchool, through one of our through our statewide information system for our students, we're gathering more data on student connectivity at the student level. So rather than us saying, well, I live in Helena, Arkansas, or Hot Springs, Arkansas, or Russellville, Arkansas, these are our providers and this is what we have. We want to know down to the student address, what provider do you have? Is it 25.3 capable? Is there even a more robust connectivity there? Do you need funding for that? Do you need assistance with that? Can it handle full-on Zoom sessions if you're working from home or learning from home, or if you're teaching from home, because we have the teacher aspect of that as well. So we've gathered more and more data than we can even begin to imagine. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here's some of the things that we've been working with internally with research and technology. My title is Assistant Commissioner for Research and Technology. I work directly for a commissioner, as I said earlier, or the secretary. And we have a lot of different things going on that help work with students and families and teachers and schools on just things that wrap around all the connectivity, the broadband, the devices. So basically digital learning as a whole. So when we look at digital learning, and we think of all the initiatives that we have going on and the partnerships that we have going on, guys, we are making a really good step in the right direction. Interestingly enough, I get to speak or go to a lot of national level conferences or Zoom a lot lately. As we all know, we're Zooming ourselves to death. But I Zoom with a lot of folks around the country who are just in the beginning stages of having the conversations that we've been having in Arkansas for a long time. For example, for us to have a statewide infrastructure where all the schools have connectivity to the school campuses, to the classrooms, some states, that's still a dream for them to have. But we're fortunate in Arkansas that we have that. For us to have a statewide information system for all of our students and financial stuff within the schools, most states, and now when I say most, I mean only 2 or 3 states have the infrastructure in place like we do. Well, then we got digital learning, and we got all these things that wrap around it. We're working on with an organization called Education Superhighway right now with a mapping project that is to help us tie vendors to student addresses. And that project is in progress right now. We've been working on the data sharing agreements and all that because we are handling student data with a external entity. So we've been working through that so that we can find out down to the student level or down to the teacher level what products and what vendors are available so we can best leverage our resources to help those kids. That project, I got a first little taste of it a couple of days ago where we got to look at the dashboard where we can see we still have need for more vendor participation in that, and Education Superhighway is working on that. So there's a mapping project going on for that piece alone, just for our kids. We've also been working with the Department of Information Systems, and we've been working with our K-12 and E-rate teams to try to leverage all those funds that I mentioned earlier, the ECF, the ESSER funds, the E-rate funds, to enhance broadband as much as we can to the student at their home. We've been working with some other organizations, and we've been working in the schools to get as much education and knowledge as we can out there. And here's one of the things I want to mention, and I think this was very obvious in the previous conversation before me when you guys were talking with Ritter. I believe one of the mayors was applauding the efforts that have been going on in that community. When we start working with our telcos and our ISPs as partners and not just vendors, and we start making a true vested effort in one another, and when we start doing what's best for our kids, we take the whole connectivity discussion to a whole different level, a level that we've not had prior to some of the things we've dealt with for the last couple of years. And when we start having that conversation wrapped around what's best for our telemedicine and what's best for our telecommuting and our business practices and our businesses within the communities, and we overlay that with education initiatives that we're doing, then those partnerships become very critical and very much more meaningful for us as a state. And I want to say, and I want to brag on our state, are we where we want to be? No, we're not there. And I don't know that we'll ever be 100% there. If we get to that point, great. But we are getting closer and closer and closer to having meaningful connectivity, heavy or much more deep discussion about what it means to get down that last mile, down that dirt road to that family that lives at the very end of that road, for that student to be able to have the same level of connectivity and connection to their school as the student who lives in the most affluent part of the city. So when we start having those conversations with our telcos and ISPs as partners and not just people selling us product, it becomes much deeper. I also threw in a couple of links that will lead anyone who cares to go to look at the governor's office initiative, the Arkansas State Broadband Office. That group has been very helpful with giving us information and data that we need to help schools make decisions. They do have a broadband map and some providers that's at a more high level, but we're working with Education Superhighway to get down to the student level so superintendents can see where they need to direct some of their connections or their connectivity funds. And then, of course, there's the Arkansas Rural Connect information I threw in there. One thing that we did at the very beginning of this pandemic is the governor gave us $10 million. And with that $10 million, we put 21,000 hotspots in the schools within a matter of months, within 3 months, in the most needed areas for students who just had no options. Now, that don't mean they necessarily would have been able to use that hotspot from their home address to get connectivity, but they didn't have to drive 20 miles back to a school campus to be able to get connectivity on campus. They might have been able to drive up the road just a couple of miles or go to a neighbor's house or another family member's house. So that was kind of the impetus behind that, is giving students options. We also saw a lot of bus Wi-Fi out in the communities, and we did some mapping with that. And we worked with Arkansas State or University of Arkansas on some of their GIS mapping for that. So we've been working on a lot of those things. Also put the last link there. It says news goal set to rev up state internet. That is the governor's commitment to provide more connectivity for our schools and not schools, for our state with rural connectivity. I'm sorry, guys. I think K-12 in schools. So I forget that there's a broad array of people in here. But that is going to help us in so many ways. Next slide, please. And so y'all can click on that link and look at that article whenever you get ready. So when we start thinking about some of the best practices and lessons that we've learned, we realize that in the education world, in the K-12 world, that we can continue teaching and learning. We realize that as long as we're being innovative and creative and we're trying to leverage all of our resources, there's a lot we can do. Did we have learning loss over the last year? Absolutely, we did. But we would have had a lot worse situations had we not done all the work prior to that and had not partnered with all the people we had partnered with prior to that. But we want to get better. And that's one thing that Secretary Key talks about all the time when he talks about education in Arkansas, K-12, higher ed, work for anyone that's involved with educating a person, student, adult, whatever. We realize we want to get better, and we can get better as long as we keep leveraging the technologies and the innovation that we have in our state. Not just with that stuff, but with our partnerships as well. We realize too that digital learning should be a more normal concept in the schools and not just something you do as that other thing or that cool thing we do. That digital learning needs to be a part of learning. And one of the reasons for that is it doesn't have to be a pandemic that causes a school to close. It could be a weather outage. It could be a busted pipeline in a school and the school has to close. Well, does that mean we should just end education that day for all those kids if they still have technology and resources that can help them continue? No, it doesn't. So that means digital learning should become the norm. It should be every class, every student, every teacher should be well versed, and we're working to ramp up teachers as fast as we can on online and digital learning solutions for their classrooms. Learning shouldn't look like it did for us when we were kids. It should look like what we need today with the innovation that we have today, and we're leveraging resources and collaboration and partnerships to make that happen. And as I said on this slide, collaboration is so critical for that. So we've got to design our learning practices and our digital learning for every student, not just the students who have computers, not just the students who have technology at home. It's got to be for every single student. We're only as good as our weakest link or our lowest performing kids. So we've got to make sure we do everything we can to enhance that student's life so that he or she can become productive members of society. And we've got to really think in long term. A lot of times it's easy to throw the Band-Aid out there and just fix something really quickly, but let's start thinking long term. So one of the things we're doing with our schools, with all the ESSER, ARP, ECF funds, E-rate funds, is stop thinking about the here and now and start thinking about what are we doing 3 to 5 years from now for our kids and our teachers? What kind of solutions and implementations are we putting in place that we know will be around for a while? Now, I've been in educational technology for 28 years. I know it changes, but I also have seen a lot of times where we buy the latest, greatest, flashy, shiny, buzzy thing, not thinking about whether it's going to be a valid tool to use from here on out. And we have to think there's some things that don't work. Let's toss those out. There's some things that work and we need to do better. Let's keep working on those things. And of course, there are some great solutions out there as well. So there's a lot of innovation going on, a lot of things going on in this world, in this digital technology world, a lot going with the broadband discussion, working with the Arkansas State Broadband Office. Next slide, please. I threw this slide in here just this morning, and I think I might have told one of the ladies I was talking about that my presentation is never just a solid presentation. It's a living, breathing organism. And I edit it until the minute I present, sometimes during the presentation, and sometimes after, and I go back and add more stuff. This is one I threw in there this morning. So Education Superhighway just released this No Home Left Offline paper and report, which was very interesting for me. I've only had a chance to skim it this morning. I just got it this morning. So there's a lot of information here, but just a few little highlights. 28.2 million of 122.8 million homes in the U.S. do not have high-speed broadband. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have a connection. That just means they may not have a good high-speed broadband connection where you can do asynchronous learning, or it might be taxed because there may be 3 kids living in the home trying to use that same pipe at the same time, which was a whole nother discussion that we had to have. And that's just because you have a good high-speed connection at home doesn't necessarily mean that mom and dad and brother and sister and cousin all living there can have good quality connectivity. So we got to think in terms of quality of connectivity to that home based on what the needs are. But this report revealed a lot of things. I'm just now digging into it. I threw the link on there for any of you that want to look and read if you have a lot of free time on your hand and just want to read and dig into that. But one of the things that I want to highlight is that last piece in there. And it says Arkansas, 50%, 52% of our people have infrastructure but can't afford it. So that was a whole different discussion. We thought, well, it's one thing having infrastructure. It's another thing having high quality broadband, but what about affordability? And I want to think of it in terms of this. For me to go out and spend $50 or $100 a month on high speed connectivity, I don't fret about that. But for a single parent with 4 kids who is working a single job or multiple jobs, that $100 internet connectivity might be the difference in them having milk and bread or lights or water. I mean, so we really got to think about the affordability of this for our families, especially our more impoverished families. And so connectivity is not the same price across the board. If you go to some communities, you can get broadband, high-speed internet for pennies on the dollar compared to someone who's out in the middle of nowhere. I'll give you an example. A couple of friends of mine who live out in the rural area and they have kids were trying to use satellite connectivity because that was the only thing available for them. And the problem with it was extremely expensive. It was over $200 a month, not including the equipment. And then the connectivity was poor or modest at least, or at best. And so they were really spending a lot of money for nothing. So you take that family, that single parent with the 3 or 4 kids, and tell them they've got to pay $200 a month. I mean, that just isn't practical, guys. So we got to really think about making internet almost as affordable as water to the home, and that it also needs to flow just as well all the way to the home. So those are some things that we've been thinking about at the Department of Ed and K-12 education and higher ed. What can we do? What resources can we leverage? What are we doing for those kids who have the least to give them the most when it comes to opportunities for learning. And we've been working really hard. I know all of you guys have been working really hard. We've been learning from our data that we have a lot of gaps that we've got to work on. And guys, I know I ran through that 100 million miles an hour. That's just how I am. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer or have any discussion with you guys.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate you doing that. And it looks like in our comment section, you're just getting a lot of people agreeing with you, saying amen on affordability. Without addressing the affordability issue, we will not really be resolving the accessibility to all. And then they asked if we could share the slides, which I believe we've already done. Any other questions for Don Benton?
And Andrea, anything I share with you guys is public knowledge, so I have no rights to anything. It's just something I created and shared. So
It sounds like snow days are gone forever.
well, so now I have a 13-year-old daughter, so I have to be real careful with that discussion. And I said sometimes kids just need a snow day, and we all agree with that at the Department of Ed, that sometimes a snow day is just healthy for mental health and all those reasons. But what we want to do is give the opportunity for schools who think, man, we've got something really important coming up. We don't need to miss a day of school today, and be able to have that opportunity or that option. I think the biggest thing here, and I had that one of my slides, is flexibility. We got to be flexible with today's learner and with today's teachers more so than ever before, because our kids are having so many different options and opportunities to learn. And in K-12, we got to make sure we maximize the flexibility and those options. And if they need to be working on something on a snow day, don't take up the whole snow day. Let's just take up a few minutes of that day and give them the rest of the day to go play in the snow. So I don't want to be that bad guy. Don't put that on me.
That's great. Yes, I agree. For mental health, we all need a snow day from time
Absolutely.
to time. And so the Department of Education has just done a fantastic job over the year and a half, especially your department. Thank you very much. I know, talk about being flexible. You've had to be flexible over the last year and a half, and we're grateful for all the hard work that you have done. And I think that you probably addressed everyone's questions, because I'm not seeing much go through. Either that or it's getting close to lunchtime.
That too.
And so I think we'll just go ahead and close early, but we appreciate your presentation, and thanks for spending some time with us today. And thanks to everyone on here for joining us and learning about resources and tools to help with all of our communities. This is our last workshop in the COVID-19 Recovery and Resiliency webinar series. But if any of you have any training needs, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at the Delta Center. We'll be happy to work with you on that. And so everyone have a great lunch. And again, Don, thank you very much. Goodbye.